Okay, Diablo 3. So if you've looked around for Diablo builds before online, you'll note that almost everyone just plays a Demon Hunter. It's how do you do a Greater Rift fast? Oh, let's get a Demon Hunter and hold down his little spin to win move. How do you do an Echoing Nightmare? Let's get my Demon Hunter out. I thought I'd change up the meta a little bit. So this is the character which I just finished the season's journey with, and he did it without taking any damage whatsoever. So first I'm going to run you through what his gear is and how it all works, and then I'll do a bit of a showcase at the end. I'm putting the showcase at the end instead of the start because it is quite flashing light intensive. It's like a disco ball on crack at points. If you've got a problem with flashing lights, this might not be the build for you, and might not be the video for you actually, but okay, let's jump in. So the main idea of this build, we are going to be taking less damage because we will always have a slow time up. So that's 75% reduced damage, combined with alter effects and reduced damage from elites and all that sort of stuff. This pushes 80%. We then have a unity, and on our follower, of course, our follower cannot die. So damage is halved again. So of the 20% we're taking 10%. And then for the first 100 or so Greater Rift levels, I suggest you use the Aquila Cuirass. I've got a primal one here. I'm not even using it anymore because I don't need the defense, but that takes the damage down from 10% to 5%. We then, of that 5% we're taking, we have shields. So we equip an Ashnagar's Blood Bracer. Potency of our shields is increased. This isn't a very good one, but I'm still tweaking my gear for this character. We also have Galvanizing Ward and Dominance. That's our basic defense layer. But on top of this, we're also going to do more attacks per second than any other build and have life gain on hit. And so we will be able to face tank any creature in the game. With one exception, which I will cover momentarily. But first I'll run through what the stuff here is. Unstable Anomaly. It's nice to have a backup just so that you've got way out if things go wrong, you get a lag spike or something. I've also got a Fate Lapse on my follower. Audacity, you can swap this if you feel like you need more defenses. You can swap this out for a Temporal Flux because we'll be doing a large amount of arcane damage. But I'm trying to push the Greater Rifts, so I thought, well, a little bit more damage. Electrocute, you can have any rune you want on it. I suggest Chain Lightning, but any of them will do. We don't use our secondary skill at all, so that's completely irrelevant. Our primary skill is Teleport with the Calamity rune. Calamity does a very short range wave of force and stuns after teleporting, and as you may have seen with our 4-piece set of Dalsaires, when we're in a slow time bubble, teleport doesn't have a cooldown. So we will be doing essentially infinite numbers of teleports. Realistically, it caps out at about 30 a second. I don't know if you want to pause the video later and count, you're welcome to, but it's a lot. Moving on, as well as our arcane damage from teleport, we will also have Storm Armor, which occasionally zaps people, but also when we do a critical, it electrocutes a nearby enemy. We will be alternating between arcane and lightning meteors with the Tel Rushes set. So Tel Rusher, when you do a new type of energy damage between cold, fire, arcane and lightning, it summons a meteor down onto the place that you're at or the place that you're targeting, doesn't really matter. This is our primary source of damage. So we're using the Meteor Staff, and over in Kunai's Cube we've got another Meteor Staff and the Meteor Boots. A Unity and a Ring of Royal Grandeur. You can swap depending on what you prefer to be in the cube and what you've got a good roll on. You need the Ring of Royal Grandeur to get the 6 pieces of Tel Rushes, 3 pieces of Dalsaires, and a Meteor Staff happening. That's just an essential. My other item, by the way, is a Stone of Jordan for the each of your elemental damage bonuses is equal to your highest. So I've focused on cold. I gave myself some cold damage, some cold damage, some cold damage, and then if you have a look at my all my meteors will be getting a big fat bonus. That's just for damage to max out. It's not necessary. Moving on, we have Meteor in our taskbar with Molten Impact. This is just the biggest of the meteors. We don't cast this very often because we have to stop to cast it, and we don't want to stop ever if we can help it. But when we do stop to cast a meteor, if the time comes, we want it to hurt the enemy. So the biggest one is preferable. And Explosive Blast. Now, early on, you might be tempted to take, say, Black Hole with a Event Horizon and suck in all the things from elites or other such things. But as Explosive Blast is instant, we can cast it without interrupting our flow. And because we've taken a Fire Meteor, we are taking a Cold Explosive Blast. That's pretty much all the tricks. I guess it's time to do a... Oh, I'm sorry. The gems this season, we've got Soul Slivers or Soul Shards. So I've got a Remnant of Pain here, which ups my attack speed quite heavily when I critically hit an enemy. And all crits against stunned enemies... all hits against stunned enemies are crits. And we stun with our Wave of Force from our Calamity Teleport. And up in the helmet, I've got just some life essentially on this, but also a Ring of Fire after killing 100 enemies. Again, that's just damage, trying to push the rifts. It's not necessary. You can swap all these gems out for Vitality Gems if you want. I'm using Int. Again, I haven't taken damage yet this league. Not with the right gear, I'm sorry. I obviously took a damage early. There is one exception I said I was going to cover. In the enmities which fulminate into reality, I covered these in my last video. They're a relatively new addition to Diablo. In those, creatures can sometimes affect you with necrosis. You'll get a little box down here, a little green square. And when you're affected by that, it seems to turn off our defenses. I don't know exactly what it's doing. There's something in-game which just watch out. If you get one of them, you're not as tough as you otherwise expect you will be, and you will potentially take some damage. Apart from that very small niche scenario though, yeah, let's go try it out and see what happens. Sorry, that's Kunai's over there. We want the Greater Rift. I've been pushing up to 111 is where I'm up to. You get 110 to finish the season. Let's go back. Everyone knows what a level 100 Rift is like, just for the damage of the creatures and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, let's see what we can do. Okay, so no picking on my Rift running abilities here. I realise there's all sorts of tactics out there for timing pylons and picking the terrain and the creature type and all that sort of stuff, but I'm not really worrying about that sort of stuff this run. This is purely to show how the build works and also to try and find some big fat creatures so that we can face tank and you can make sure that there's definitely no damage being taken. Little twisty turny corridors, so it might be hard to get massive mobs on us, but we'll find something. One thing that I didn't mention earlier, which you're probably picking up from just this little bit so far, is that another layer of defense we have is we're always on the move. Often by the time a creature actually goes to attack us with a hit, we've either long since moved on, or if we haven't, we've stuck around and stunned them. So it can be a little bit hard to see sometimes with so much stuff happening on the screen, but hopefully we'll find some Mallet Lords or something. They're big overhead slam that you can see them wind it up, and it's quite clear when that gets interrupted by our little stun mechanic. Also, it's probably becoming clear that our damage is not amazing. It is certainly possible to build builds with much more damage than this. This one will carry you through, absolutely no problem. But the reason that I think it's the strongest build is because it is the tankiest. We're sitting in front of a yellow creature here. It's not really doing much to us, so that doesn't actually have many tricks up its sleeve. Hopefully we'll find someone with more than just Orbiter to stand in front of, and you can get a better feel for how much damage this build can actually tank. Speaking of creatures, I mean, this guy's a nothing. He's a horde and an orbiter and absolutely nothing special. But there are some pros and cons to this build. So let's start with the weaknesses. Juggernauts absolutely suck. They don't pose any threat to us, but they take us substantially longer than any other creature. That's just insane. So not only are they immune to our stun, which means that we never crit them, but because we're never critting them, we also never trigger our storm armor procs, and because we don't do that, we don't get as many meteors falling, and so our damage drops again. And just look, Juggernauts, if you get an entire run of Juggernauts, you're not going to finish the run on time. On the... Oh, here's a good damage guy, actually. He's got electric, and he's got poison, and he's got reflex damage. I'm just going to stand right on top of him, doing my thing, and as you can see, the health bar doesn't move an inch. It is... I'm not even sure if he's got the damage to get through my shields, but even if he did, the health would be regenerated pretty much instantly. You wouldn't even notice a dip in health. So that was a good example. So I was talking about creatures that we're good against, illusionists. We absolutely shine against illusionists. This is because we're doing area damage almost exclusively, and when they summon their little clones with very little health, they fall over very quickly. This stacks up towards our Ring of Fire, our 100 kills to get a Ring of Fire. And Ring of Fire, you saw it on the previous yellow, it does, I think, damage based on their health as opposed to actual damage over time, which means that if you can trigger a Ring of Fire, all creatures caught within it will feel very much the same. We're taking no damage, and they will die after a set number of ticks. Okay, here's a mortar guy. He's not going to be able to do much to us. No, not that anyone can, but he's particularly no threat. So I might just quickly cover a couple of things which I should have mentioned earlier. I was saying that early on you'll like the Aquila Cuirass for an extra layer of defense. In order to squeeze this into your build, we go an offhand Tel Russia set item and a one-handed weapon. You can pick anything you want. I went for the plus damage to elites. You can obviously go whatever you feel most comfortable with, and yeah, when you get to rift level maybe 100, at about 104 I think I did the swap. This is when I felt that I had enough vitality that things weren't going to become a problem. As it turned out, I was playing it overly cautiously, but yeah, in hardcore it's always better safe than sorry. The other thing I should probably mention, I said to finish the league you need to do Greater Rift level 110. Technically I think you can finish the season's journey by about Greater Rift level 70, 75, something in that region. But in order to finish the altar in Tristram, where you get all your powers and all that sort of stuff, the final one requires 1600 blood shards sacrificed all at once, the things that you give to Kadala, and in order to carry that many at any one time you need to have completed Greater Rift level 110. So yeah, technically you don't need it to finish the season, but if you want to actually come away from the season going, yes, I actually finished it, in my mind you need to finish the altar. Another thing I didn't cover earlier when running through the how to set up this build, the 3 legendary gems. Every build wants to have run 3 legendary gems eventually. The 3 that we run are all the Banes. We have the Bane of the Powerful, the Bane of the Stricken, and the Bane of the Trapped. One is just extra damage against elites and less damage from elites, which is neither here nor there, but it is nice to have. One does extra damage to anyone that's under the effect of impairing effects. So anyone in a slow time bubble, anyone hit by our, if we decided to go the 80% slow when we do arcane damage, it's just pretty much everyone takes more damage. Most importantly though, is the Bane of the Stricken. A lot of builds have problems with different types of Greater Rift Guardians. This build is a little bit unique in that it doesn't care what Guardian we get. We either get someone that throws out minions at us, in which case that's great, we clock up our kill count, we get our Ring of Fire, and the Guardian falls over pretty fast. Or alternatively, we get a single Guardian with no minions, and our Bane of the Stricken we hit so many times with our teleporting Calamity Wave of Force that the damage stacks up to insane amounts incredibly quickly. So as you can see here, I'm doing the odd hit for 3-figure billions, maybe the odd 4-figure billion. It's hard to see because they all come in clumps and you'd have to pause the video to see. But when we start fighting Greater Rift Guardians at later levels, after not even a minute of fighting, you're going to be seeing double-figure trillions, triple-figure trillions. Like, it clocks up fast. So Greater Rift Guardians, you need to level your Bane of the Stricken gem as a priority, and it will carry you through at the end. It's not so important here. Like, here's a clump of, a dozen creatures. I do, say, 30 hits. I split, they're all taking an extra 2% damage or something. It's nothing by the time that I actually move on. Against rares and elites, there's always mobs around, and so the Bane of the Stricken only affects one creature every time we teleport, and it's not in our control as to which one is being affected. But against Greater Rift Guardians, it is invaluable, and I recommend leveling it as a priority every chance you get. So even if you're down to, say, 60% chance to level up the gem, just go for it. Okay, a channeling pylon. This doesn't actually do much for us, but it does allow us to cast our explosive blast more often, which, it's just nice. We squeeze in more meteors, especially against juggernauts. This is a nice way to actually mitigate the fact that we're not getting so many lightning effects off. As you can see, this juggernaut is soaking more than some of the other creatures that we've come across. It's just, every build has their Bane. For this one, it is definitely juggernauts. That being said, I think I'm going to stay and finish this guy off because it should trigger the Rift Guardian, and then you can see a bit of a final fight and we'll call it done. While waiting for that, I might just finish up this video by running through things to focus on in the build for anyone out there that feels like copying it and they don't know what to reroll at the Mystic for their items. So I mentioned earlier the Stone of Jordan is what I've gone for my ring, and so some elemental damage is nice. You don't have to do that. Things to focus on, we don't care about life regen at all. Ditch that. We do care about life on hit. We don't care about critical chance at all. Amusingly, with our weapon gem, you might have seen earlier, our crit chance is actually less than 0, but 0 is as low as you can get. But we do care about critical damage, because when a creature is stunned, as you can see on this Rift Guardian, it comes in bursts. When they're stunned, we want to be doing a lot of crit damage. If you can get some meteor damage on your items, that's nice, not essential, but don't worry about Wave of Force. It's a drop in the ocean damage-wise. It really is just there to trigger our other abilities and not at all necessary for damage. Obviously stack your main stat, which as being a mage is Int, Life and Vitality, in that order, Int, Life, Vitality. I tend to give my guy, when doing Paragon points, roughly 2 Int for every Vitality that he got. I found that was a good balance, but you can use your own judgment there. And we don't care about armor or resists. Armor because, as you've seen, we're taking no damage, and I haven't got any armor on my stuff apart from the base amount that's on my gear. And resists, we've got super high Int as a mage, and that gives us resists, and yeah, I think that's everything. Just cleaning up the last bit there, I didn't actually realise that when you'd done the Rift Guardian you could still get creatures, but there you go, things you learn. Upgrade one of my little rubbish gems for some finishing off achievements. And yeah, I guess that's it. If you've got any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below, and I promise to get back to you before too long. And otherwise, good luck with your own characters, and maybe I'll see you around Tristram sometime. See ya.